All right, Shalom. First off, I'm going to start off by giving all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rachakodash. Yahweh being the Heavenly Father's true name, Yahweh Shai being the name of His only begotten Son. Double honors unto the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, who rule well and teach well. Peace, blessings, and salutations to all you walking throughout the four corners of the earth, continuing to push and do the works in truth and in sincerity. All right, this is the brother Masha Mayam, one of the men here with the GMS branch out here in the Morning Camp. Here with another quick lesson through the Spirit, and pretty much going into listening is an art, okay? Listening is an art, all right? And re-quoting basically, I believe it's the elder Apostle Gabar that first mentioned it, okay? You know, but pretty much dealing with what? Using your ears, okay? And really listening and paying attention, okay? When you're watching videos, okay? Or when you're in class, right? Or even when you're on the line, you know? But just overall, you know, using listening, because that's a very important function as well, being in this truth, okay? That's how you're able to listen. That's how you're able to get breakdowns, right? Now, of course, we listen. We gotta, you know, your ears is on your head, right? But you know, like the Lord said, let's start off with that actually real quick. All right. This is Matthew chapter 11 and verse 15, and it reads, "He that hath ears to hear, let him hear." Okay, I wasn't gonna start off in this order, but hey, this is how the Spirit has it. Okay, and this is what the Lord has been saying Himself. As you read through the scriptures, this isn't the first, this isn't the only place where you see this written, right? You know, but basically, you know, going into what? Listening to understand what's being said and comprehending what's being said, right? That's what the Lord meant, you know, because clearly the people He was teaching, okay, they had ears on their head, right? Obviously, but what? It means listening, okay, to comprehend, you know, and applying it in the times that we're in as well, right? You know, and I said, you know, the people He was teaching had ears on the head, but it's not like I was actually there at that time. But you know, obviously, you know, we see what the Lord means, basically meaning what? To listen with your ears, okay, to listen and comprehend, you know. So, but so pretty much dealing with, you know, listening to understanding, you know, what's being said, you know. But from here, let's go to let's get Ecclesiastes chapter 5 and verse 1, and it reads, "Keep thy foot when thou goest to the house of the Most High, and be more ready to hear than to give the sacrifice of fools, for they consider not that they do evil." Okay, and you know, we apply this in different situations. You know, say you're among elders, right? You know, to keep thy foot, you know, and to what? Be more ready to hear. Okay, so what? To listen. Okay, and not only in that situation, but even among your own camp. Okay, when you're what? In class, you know, you don't want to more than anything, really, you want to listen, okay, for elder brother, or you know, the man next to you is speaking, all right, because you know, that's the Spirit of the Lord speaking, and whether you know He's bringing out a breakdown, okay, or reading a precept, right? As I was saying when I started, you want to what? Listen to comprehend what's being said and to understand, right? That's how you're able to what? You know, digest and able to come up with an answer, right? Or say a scoff is being thrown at you, right? Understanding the point and why the brother's asking what he's asking, you know. From here, let's also get Sirach chapter 32 and verse 8. Sirach chapter 32 and verse 8, and it reads, "Let thy speech be short, comprehending much and few words, be as one that knoweth and yet holdeth his tongue." Okay, you know, this is another precept, you know, dealing with what? Letting your speech be short, right? You know, comprehending much in few words, okay? Applying it, you know, and these, you know, these can really be applied in many different situations. Of course, you know, when you're doing lessons, right? You want to, you know, be straight to the point. You know, if you're teaching milk, you know, keep it short and straight to the point. You know, comprehending much in few words, right? But also dealing with listening, okay? How you're able to what? How you're able to comprehend much is what? By using your ears, by listening, you know. when you get better at listening, you know, and taking in and digesting what's being said, right? It allows you to what? Fully understand and how to use what was taught you the correct way, you know, which will allow you to what? Get straight to the point, you know, when you're teaching your own lessons, right? You know, so that's the importance of listening, you know, when you're being taught. From here, let's go to James chapter 1 and verse 19. And it reads, "Wherefore, my beloved brethren, let every man be swift to hear, slow to speak, slow to wrath." Okay? Once again, so you want to what? Be swift to hear. Okay? And in many different situations, say, for example, we're on the line, okay, and an individual might come up and he has a question, or a scoffer might come up and he's trying to scoff, right? Well, first thing you want to do is what? All right, let me hear what he's trying to say. What is he trying to say? And really get what he's trying to say or where he's coming from, to be able to what? Come back with the correct argument, or not argument, or to give the correct edification, okay? Because at the end of the day, you know, the men of the Lord are the ones who have the true understanding, period, right? But listening to what's being said or being asked to be able to what? Give the correct understanding, you know? So what it says, but wherefore, my beloved brethren, let every man be what? Swift to hear. All right. So because really the next precept is the perfect one for what the analogy I just made, right? This is Proverbs chapter 18 and verse 13. Proverbs chapter 18 and verse 13, and it reads, "He that answereth a matter before he heareth it, it is folly and shame unto him." Okay? So once again, plain and simple, okay? If you what? Answer something before you fully understood what's being said, then what? It's folly, and you're not what? You didn't fully understand, okay, which what? You're not gonna give the correct answer, okay, which can what? Come out foolish, right? Or even say, and I know brothers, you know, have got on me and other brothers about this, dealing with scoff games. You want to make sure what? You listen to what's being said, okay? Say a brother might be scoffing you, hear what the brother is saying and the angle they're coming from, to be able to what? Then give an answer and what? Give the correct precept, right? Or once again, like that analogy I brought out, somebody's on the line, okay, and they come up and they have a question, or they're trying to make an argument. Well, you want to fully hear and understand their argument and where they're coming from, right? And then what? To be able to make the correct rebuttal, you know, or to give the correct answer, you know. From here, let's also get the book of Luke chapter 8 and verse 18, and really getting straight to the point. This was an analogy he was making, right? Yeah, but we'll just get straight to the point. This is Luke chapter 8 and verse 18, and it reads, "Take heed therefore how ye hear, for whosoever hath, to him shall be given, and whosoever hath not, from him shall be taken even that which he seemeth to have." Okay? And I'm using this first part, you know, because even in this analogy too, the Lord was speaking to him, okay, and he said what? Take heed how ye hear, okay? Because you want to what? Listen and understand what's being said, okay, and not get the wrong idea or of what's being said to you, right? An older brother in our camp, he even also requotes this, you know, a lot of the times, you know, hey, take heed how you hear, all right? And, you know, pretty much, you know, this is something that I'm trying to get better at doing. Sometimes I catch myself, you know, my attention span going in many different ways, you know. I might be listening or even a video, but then, you know, other things come into my mind. But, you know, we want to what? Make sure we're focusing and fully listening in, right? You know, because ultimately what? That's how you're able to get understanding, you know, because like the scriptures say, let's get Proverbs chapter 4 and verse 7. This is Proverbs chapter 4 and verse 7, and it reads, wisdom is the principal thing, therefore get wisdom, and with all thy getting, get understanding. All right. Now the scriptures tell us in Psalms, through thy precepts I get understanding, which is that's what brothers do. Okay, when we're breaking things down, okay, to paint the picture and to edify, right? You go to this precept and you go to that precept, because even in Isaiah 28:12, it says what? Precept must be upon precept, precept upon precept, line upon line, here a little and there a little, right? So what? That's how you're able to get understanding, okay? But one thing too, just along with this message that or this edification, also applying what? Listening, okay? So your brother is breaking down precept upon precept. Well, you want to make sure what? You're listening, okay, and attentive, so that what? You're able to get the breakdown and understanding and go reteach that yourself, right? So that's another very key thing of this truth, to apply. Because if you're not listening, you can hear a brother speaking all day, and you might even hear the precept and go regurgitate it, right? But what it says, and with all that getting, get understanding. So if you're not really listening to comprehend, then you won't be able to get that understanding. Okay? So from here, let's get Proverbs chapter 25 and verse 12. This is Proverbs chapter 25 and verse 12, and it reads, as an earring of gold and an ornament of fine gold, so is a wise reprover upon an obedient ear. Okay? It's comparing it to what? As an earring of gold and an ornament of fine gold, so is a wise reprover upon an obedient ear. Okay? So somebody that listens, okay, and took in what was said, okay, that's what? That's like having an earring of gold upon your ear. Okay? Rereading it again, as an earring of gold and an ornament of fine gold, so is a wise reprover upon an obedient ear. Okay? Right. Actually, it's that's what a wise reprover is, upon an obedient ear. Okay? So somebody that gives the correct message, okay, it's like what? They're putting an earring of gold, okay, upon your ear, but what? It also said upon an obedient ear, So somebody that's listening, okay, and understanding what's being said, right? That's what it's likened onto. Okay? And really, this is what a lot of the brothers and the elders and the Akim have been doing for the longest, okay? They are these wise reprovers, right? But you want to make sure what you're listening to, what a brother's teaching, so that it doesn't go in through one ear and out the other, right? And once again, like I said, this is something I'm, I want to make sure I do better at myself, But that's the point. Giving all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rachakodash. The honors unto the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, who rule well and teach well. And peace, blessings, and salutations to all you walking throughout the four corners of the earth, continuing to push and do the works in truth and in sincerity. Shalom.